like fertility and all of this? Because I would think it's obviously very stressful. I know from the women's health conversation in terms of, getting into your HPA axis and the cortisol, the stress hormones. People don't realize you have a choice in your brain, either whether you're going to make the stress hormones to mitigate the stress going on, or you're going to make the sex hormones. So obviously that's going to affect your fertility. What are you seeing now in that conversation with
So what I'm seeing, okay, a lot of like, because people are starting, like women are starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Really what's influenced them is, oh my God, they're stuck at home. They are now like decide, I think after all of that time deciding that, okay, I got to do something. Right. And they've been waiting around. And yeah, a lot of the stress of not just the fertility aspect, but really we're looking at these kind of months where we've been under, I would say, attack of our consciousness. Everything is sensational, and all of those like hits to our system have created like a form of complex post-traumatic.
Would I welcome Tsao-Lin Moy and ask, how does a Chinese American woman growing up with a Western medical physician dad walk away from a situation where she's 6 or 7 years old, sees the system through different eyes of distrust, and has her own emergency medicine conversation in her head, grows up, goes off to do some business stuff, didn't think she wanted anything to do with medicine, and then comes full circle coming back to starting to employ Chinese medicine and a whole bunch of other modalities into her acupuncture and lifestyle and herbs and nutrition and essential oils. How does this person, where is she owning her own health in this whole entire journey? And how does she help hundreds of families move from a place of infertility now to a place of conception amongst this crazy, crazy, crazy pandemic world? Owning Her Health is up now.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
Welcome, everyone, to another wonderful episode of Owning Her Health. As I said in the intro, this episode, we're going to get into where East meets West a little bit, definitely bringing it into what we're going through right now. We're recording this at the end of January 2021. So even if you're listening to this a couple years later, in the midst of the pandemic, you guys will know where we ended up, but we're in the midst of this right now. And Tsao-Lin Moy has been working with bringing her message out. Not only are we going to talk a little bit, I think, into terms of where we're going with COVID, but really working as a natural fertility expert, having her training in East Asian medicine, helping people bring that into maybe what they're doing here in the Western world. So, Cho, thank you so much for being here today. And how did you get to owning your health and kind of, because you're not everyone's everyday, Chinese medicine doctor. You're different. So give us a little bit of synopsis as how you have evolved to get to where you are, and what you're doing now in the world of bridging this.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Lisette, for having me on your show. And my, let's say, journey is really, I could say, even started when I was like 6 or 7. And I grew up in a Western medicine environment. My father was a Western doctor. And so really around medicine my entire life.
Wow.
I got I got to look at all of those magazines with like gross pictures, like fascinating pictures. And the old magazines used to have really like, you know, the worst of the worst pictures. And so personally, I had an experience when I was 7, and I was in the hospital for like a month. They were trying
Oh,
to
wow.
figure out what was wrong. And it ended up being that I had an appendix, a very large appendix, probably like the size of a small cucumber,
Oh
right?
my
And
God.
finally, it got taken out. That I look at that experience there, you know, being a kid in the hospital and being poked and prodded, and how it was really very miserable and didn't necessarily, you know, give me some confidence in that model, right? And so I think that that was like the thing that one of the things that made me realize, like, okay, they don't really know everything. And really questioning, you know, like really questioning. The surgeon, who was a friend of the family, I asked after he took me down to pathology to show me my appendix in this little container.
I love it, because here you are, this little 6 or 7-year-old being like, show me my appendix.
Yeah, I want to see it. Like, I want to see it. I want to see it. It was like a
I was
word.
like
It was
that
like
too.
this.
I had my mom's, she had these big gallbladder stones taken out when I was like 9 or something. I was like taking it to school. People like thinking I'm weird. I'm like, isn't this cool?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would say that that is also, I have a lot of curiosity, and I read medical journal. I read, I look, I'm like, there is so much. And so kind of fast forward into, you know, Chinese medicine. Originally I was in business. Yeah. And so I would say that that is also, I have a lot of curiosity, and I read medical journal. I read, I look, I'm like, there is so much. I really started to realize, like, this is, I'm not really helping people. Was always interested in health and wellness, but going into, you know, like medicine was not appealing. It like, I didn't want to do, like, I didn't feel connected to it the same way.
Right.
I understood it, but it didn't like sing to my heart. I didn't have that. And at some point I was like, oh, you know, I really love massage therapy. Like, I'm going to go and do that. And while I was in school there, you know, like, I need more. We were studying, you know, Eastern foundations, and it just was like, I'm going to need to go further with this and go to the acupuncture school and learn about herbs and learn about all things like neurolinguistic programming, shamanism, you know, like essential oils, all different kinds, Japanese herbs, really expanding to be able to provide, like, there's so many paths to wellness, right? There isn't just the one.
Right.
Uh, what I believe is that there is having a particular mind shift, or we call a mindset around health, and then you can take from all different places.
What I love is just hearing your story, like out of your natural curiosity, and then bringing that into, knowing that you didn't necessarily like what your dad was doing, and but you did like the healing modalities, and then coming back to that. I think that's really beautiful, and I think that's like needs to be seen, because we went through a phase here where people like just feel like they have to be like one thing or stay in one sort of, they're always trying to find themselves, but in a really stressed out way. Like that's a bad thing. But like what you described, is actually a good thing. And then hopefully maybe by midlife or so, you say, how can I take all of these pieces and put it together as my medicine women? That's how I kind of see the medicine women rising conversation I have, where you get to be to a part where you owned your own health through your own life story, and it really becomes your medicine, whether it's you working in your home or working out in the world. So what is the medicine now? What are you doing right now? Like I assume, like with COVID and these long haulers, especially you're up in, the tri-state area in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, those are really where a lot of the key long hauler conversations are coming out of right now. How do you see it all blending in?
Um, this is it's interesting how it's unfold. I mean, there are a lot of different topics. So I'm in New York City, And I have to say that, New York City, everyone is really, they're wearing their masks, they're being very careful. New Yorkers are tough. You used to be here,
Yeah.
right? They're like, whatever we're going to need to do, we're going to get through it, right? Because we've been through a lot of, things, challenges
Right.
in New York City. And what I'm seeing much more right now that's coming out are the what they call the long haulers, and those are like these lingering symptoms. Some are worse than others. I had a patient, she got sick in March. She wasn't my patient until the fall. Really terrible symptoms. But she didn't know then. They figured out that she had it because she was lost her taste,
Right.
her smell and taste, and high fevers, really awful, awful, awful. The husband and daughter did not get anything, but we don't know. Maybe they got something that was mild, and she seemed to recover until the fall when she got sick again.
Mm.
Maybe her daughter brought home a cold, which she thought it was a cold, but then after that, couldn't get out of bed, like fatigue, body aches, really like the brain fog, all. And she got tested, she had antibodies, and really thinking like, oh, maybe that was left over from the spring. But I said, she came to me, she's like, I don't know what to do, I need my energy, I'm just not recovering. And I said, I think you got it again. You got it a second time. And what we see are underlying uh, conditions that people might have, their predisposition for it. Maybe they're run down. Maybe they had some other things that were going on that were mild. And then what happens is that it affects their immune system in a way that then all of a sudden they're in a chronic state and not able to recover. And what I would say, which very effective, Western medicine doesn't really have an answer for it. What does help, we know, are like proper vitamins, getting rest, right? Sleep, eating foods that are nutritious, the gut health, and also I give herbs and getting acupuncture, really helping with the intention is to help to just recalibrate their system, because they've been through if it was just being sick is one thing, but we've got layers and layers of
Right.
stress on top of it, and then underlying kind of maybe they weren't the healthiest before.
Right.
So like navigating through what's going on, we still have to treat that underlying condition, which is their original state.
Right. And I think in the end, for me, it just feels like, I guess I've always worked with energy, even, in a very structured model as a doctor of physical therapy. A therapist, you're still working on function, right? And structure. And I'm actually working at the functional medicine level. Like, how do I get all of these pieces, even if you only have one arm or you had a stroke and we still need to be able to get to the bathroom, move around, play ball again, how are we going to work with what we have? And to me, it all felt like energy medicine. That's why I naturally went into yoga and started bringing that in, because it is all about the energy. So I think that's really great. And looking into Eastern medicine for it's, whether it be Ayurveda or Chinese medicine or, anything looking at the energy level, because it feels like to me, because I think that way, this feels like an energetic disease. Like, I know it's ping ponging where we go, but even like with what you're saying, where was the vitality low? And where was this able to have an opportunistic ability to really kind of wreak havoc? And so it's like hitting everything like a ping pong game. Some people get the liver, some people get the kidney, but I would think on acupuncture, what's really nice is that you can work on the meridians and you can be hitting a couple different things. Are you finding that? Is it,
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you that if somebody has, okay, so in Chinese medicine, for people who are, listening,
right.
is the first thing we're looking at something like known as 4 exams, where we just like look at the person, like what is your first impression of them. We're looking at their energy, we're looking at their skin color, right? What are they? And then we're looking at the, listening. I'm listening to them. What are they saying? How do they sound? And they're like, so we're looking at that, he listening, feeling them, their pulse, their skin tone, like all of those things, right? That are telling us. And then also there's like the scent, like if someone were to really like smell bad, like that.
Yeah, because
Usually it's when people are
right,
ill, you kind of
we're
pick up.
chemical. We're chemical.
Yeah. If they're toxic, they're gonna, like someone who's undergoing chemotherapy, the toxic stuff comes out, and you can have kind of like smell there's
Right.
something there. And so if somebody is in good spirits, like their their energy is there, they're hopeful, they're optimistic, that they're able to, the outcome is very different because they're on board with like, I'm moving
Healing.
forward, I'm doing something. When someone is kind of like, I don't know what's wrong, I can't do anything, and they're always looking at the struggle part of it, then what happens is they tend to kind of get stuck. It's like they keep on, going into a corner. They feel the struggle, and then they feel bad, and then they go to the places to kind of confirm. It's almost like a lock and key.
Right. You're looking, you get what you expect. I mean, that's what it really comes down to, right? You get
Yes.
what you expect.
Yes. And so what's important is when someone comes to see me, they will feel better. Like immediately, they'll feel lighter, they'll feel more calm and relaxed because we are already addressing parts of the central nervous system with the acupuncture. The fact that they're seeking something outside of the norm is also a good sign, that they're moving, even if they feel horrible, that they're looking to do something different. And so that's what I'm looking at. There's still this desire to live, it's kind of
Good
to
point.
want something better. And that has a really big difference in terms of, are they going to participate and take the herbs, stop doom scrolling, look at shifting so that they're going to sleep? Are they going to do those things? And that's going to make a difference too, right? The more
Right.
they participate, the
Because it's
better the outcome.
lifestyle. I mean, all of this is lifestyle medicine. That's one thing I love that it's happening now. 20 years ago when I'm like, oh, I want to bring in this mind body stuff and things like that. It was like, it's like I'm like bringing in like in, I'm bringing in like Law and Order into medicine or something. Like it seemed like it was so foreign, but now I guess with the tech and the intertwining, we can just be talking about lifestyle medicine, which was always the underlying part of Eastern medicine, which is again why I kind of like really was like, this makes sense. This other thing doesn't make sense to ignore like the person or what they're eating or their environment, or like even before I had the quote unquote science on epigenetics, it just made sense. I knew my life and bringing my experience and how much my environment kind of fostered my behaviors and things like that. So is this so I would be thinking like obviously because you work now with fertility and doing all of that, is it a similar story, or what are you seeing even now with like fertility and all of this? Because I would think it's obviously very stressful. I know from the women's health conversation in terms of, getting into your HPA axis and the cortisol, the stress hormones. People don't realize you have a choice in your brain, either whether you're going to make the stress hormones to mitigate the stress going on, or you're going to make the sex hormones. So obviously that's going to affect your fertility. What are you seeing now in that conversation?
So what I'm seeing, okay, a lot of like, because people are started, like women are starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Really what's influenced them is, oh my god, they're stuck at home. They are now like decide, I think after all of that time, deciding that, okay, I got to do something, right? And they've been waiting around, and yeah, a lot of the stress of not just the fertility aspect, but really we're looking at these kind of months where we've been under, uh, I would say, attack of our consciousness. Everything is sensational, and all of those like hits to our system have created like a form of complex post-traumatic stress.
Mm,
Every time your phone dings, or
right.
there's some kind of an alert, we're all like, what's going to happen? What's the next thing? Can't take another thing. And so really like looking at now, oh yes, I'm ready to start now. We need to kind of it's going to take a little longer because we need to clean out those months of stress hormones in the system that have actually impacted the cycle. We got to back up. We got to do a kind of detox, and then also stabilize so that we have a certain number of weeks and months where you're actually stable, right? That you're actually feeling good and nothing is gonna like pull you off your rails. And so now that they're going to come out like, okay, now I'm ready. There's still a little bit more time and that needs to happen. And it could be, the shorter amount would be maybe 3 months to reset their adrenal system.
Right. And
And
you're
help
doing
the
that through
hormones.
herbs and kind of are there certain meridians or certain
Yeah. Well,
herbs that kind of
definitely.
are you're
Yes.
using?
Yes. So meridians, we're looking at the kidney meridian. We call it the kidney meridian, which affects the adrenals. We're looking at also the autonomic nervous system, which is going to be part of, we call it the triple warmer. So they're different. So we're looking at, and then also the liver energy, right? Because that's that kind of constraint of the chi flow that has been very stuck. And then we're also looking at, very, very much the blood circulation going locally to the organs, right? So that when we're stressed out, basically the blood goes someplace else.
Right.
And then, affecting sleep, because you get sleep, affects the circadian rhythm is also responsible for the sex hormones. So like looking at all of these places to help bring balance, kind of this dynamic balance.
Right. And then not forcing it. Because I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is, or maybe they just don't want to realize we're kind of in a society that's like, I want what I want, when I want it, how I want it. And we tend to manipulate things to be that way. But the reality is our body is our greatest technology. And it may have a very good reason why it's not conceiving. It may have a very good reason why, I can't tell you how many women I have worked with, maybe coaching them out of a divorce or something like that,
Oh yeah.
working on the second life. And then they, kind of realize, oh, I'm so happy I didn't get pregnant or whatever. And then that was underlying, like I'm trying to that was actually some like intuitive wisdom, that goddess wisdom inside, sort of saying like, don't accept this, like this is not right for you. So sometimes we got to be careful. And again, that's why I like things like yoga and Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and even some of the uh different tangent sort of energy, like reading people's like energies and stuff like that, because I think there is something to it, even if it is looking at the very structural Western model of your nutrition profile. Like how many people actually go in for a nutrition profile before they start on infertility, Clomid shots? Not many, yet it's kind of common sense. Like maybe your body's in survival mode and it's thinking this isn't a good time to be making another human being.
Well,
So I love
it's
that
not going
you're
to work very well. I mean, and that's
right.
it's really the if you, depending on where you go. And I mean, I work with fertility doctors, we work together, and they're, I'm helping,
Like to
if the
optimize their
woman,
results.
yeah, I mean, the woman is already, she's going through that, like I'm supporting what she's doing. We've got to help her where she is. Some places they don't necessarily do the testing before to check the thyroid, to check these other things, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to give you
Yeah, it feels
a
insane.
stimulant, like a follicle stimulating hormone, and you're just going to make a bunch of eggs and you're going to get pregnant. But then what happens is that complicates. So really, cleaning out beforehand. And it doesn't mean to become, I mean, some women, it's also like the perfectionism
Yeah.
of I do yoga, I do this, I do that, but it's
Why
all of
can't I
that.
get pregnant now?
Yeah, like exactly. I mean, I look at things like okay, are you drinking diet drinks? Are you, have all your food that's organic that comes to you, but it's all in all this plastic? So there are like a lot of different things that are affecting. And what you said before also, we call like a double bind, or something that's not congruent internally. I want my career, but if I have a child, I'm not going to be able to make
Oh yeah, I
part,
swear that a lot.
and I need to do this and I need to do that. And then that creates an internal turmoil that is, then the body is like, do you want it? Or like, I need a kind of a yes, no, like,
Right.
with not
I'd
yeah.
have that so much when I was doing my work as the belly guru in my early career, in my early practice. That was all about, and I'd have so many people like, oh, well, like just getting them in for their like steady appointments was like, oh, I don't have time, or I have this. I'm like, does it seem to you like you're going to have time for the baby? Because you literally can't take an hour to go do this once a week. That's going to take like that incongruency, like you said.
Yes. Is it a
Sometimes it
priority or
takes,
not?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're listening to, so we're so powerful. I mean, that's really what we're kind of talking about here, is how much innate power we have, and then figuring out how to bring that power back. So, Cho, if you were to talk to yourself, let's say 10 years ago, and where you were on your journey and whatnot, what would you want the person of you today to like, you wish you could have whispered in her ear, 10 years ago, that might have made it a little bit easier on her path getting to where you are right now, and owning your health and your career and doing the things you're doing?
Excellent question. And what I've learned, and this is like kind of evolved,
Mm-hmm.
is, in terms of that, when I'm working with my patients, it's their journey. And as like that, I know I'm a facilitator. I want for them what it is that they want, right? The thing is that they really have to want it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a
Right.
point where someone may come in and like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then, like you said, they're like, oh, can I switch my appointment? Oh, you know what? I have this thing. Can I move it around? Move it around? And you're kind of like, I really want this for you, but you kind of have to show up. And the kind of me, kind of distorting my, like, kind of like, okay, I'll come here, we'll do this, we'll do that, to try to accommodate in a way that then is not going to work out for them. And
Right.
to just be like, okay, maybe this is not they're not ready, and it has nothing to do with what I have to offer, right? And I still sometimes get that, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if they just were like, I can see it for them, but
I
they have
know
to
that's a
see it for
hard.
them.
It's a hard thing, and I think even like as mothers and things like that, we kind of do that, like getting out of the person's way for their own lesson. Like sometimes we're like, we want to fix it so much for them, or we want to accommodate because we know, we know we have something to offer, but it at some point, or at least, what I'm hearing from you is like it just wasn't working for you. If you could have told yourself then, like it's just not going to work for you. You're not going to be at your brightest light. You're not going to be able to bring yourself 100%
Right.
to
I
what
was
you want to
trying
do.
too hard. It was like I was doing, what would happen is, and you might notice that, is that you can't do it for them,
Right.
right? They have to do it. And if they weren't, that it could be this thing that would happen where you're, trying to make it work for them, but it's their, like, they need to make it more of a shift, and that was the biggest thing I would say, is that there has to be, it's the mind body medicine part is really that alignment, and what we call a mind shift, because people come in with a particular kind of mindset about it, very set in their way. And as much as they may say the things, that they're not like taking the action that's in alignment. And so that means that there's a shift that has to happen for them to, and they could be doing, and this is the thing, you can be doing all this, the what we call the right things, like your exercise, though they're all like in different pieces, and pulling it together so that it's like, okay, I do this uh, because it's going to give me better energy. I'm going to be more present. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to live a longer life. I'm going to be there for my children. I'm going to have like, I'm looking at this long, long view, and versus I just need to get to here, like one step to the next, It's really like I can see, like running a marathon. It's like, okay, I'm just, increasing every, miles, because that in the end I'm going to be over there. And you recognize like all of these steps are important. I can't jump ahead, right?
Mhm,
I
mhm.
need to like be doing that, and that you start to see it all gathering.
Right.
And that's that mind shifting that happens when they go, oh, like, oh, I
And then they
noticed.
have the momentum. Then they get the hook into it. But like you said, it is kind of hard. So I really like that. Like if we could tell our younger selves, like that's just part of the process. It doesn't mean you're doing something bad. It doesn't mean you're good or bad or whatever. It's just like having to have that receptivity for our injection of our information, because it
Right.
really they have to be receptive. So if we flip that a little bit, Joe, and
Yeah.
said in 10 years from now, if we looked at you 10 years from now, 10 years wiser, 10 years down the road, you kind of know your vision for your business and your career and the work that you're doing. What would you love for that woman 10 years from now to kind of whisper in your ear and tell you um
Oh, you mean
now?
like to tell me right now,
Yeah,
like
like
in
if
the
that
future?
woman in the future that's been able to, do what you see in the vision, or optimally, what would you love to hear from her right now that would give you a sense of sort of comfort that, all right, we're on the right track, like keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I believe that she would tell me that I am, that this is, I mean, I can feel that I'm still in this journey, and that there's more out
Right,
there.
evolving.
Yes, there's more evolving, ever evolving, and that evolved me 10 years from now would also tell me that, that the turmoil, I can't even call it turmoil at this point. That whatever's happening right now in the world is very temporary, right? And to kind of like look at it on the past as like, oh yeah, that was like, like the Hurricane Sandy, or it'll be such a little, it'll be a blip, just like we talk about like, oh, the flu of 1918, and
Right. It's like a
or
world war at this point, right? Like you look at this like World War I, World War II, and you're like these living through it must have been like, holy cow. But
yeah.
you'll get to a point where you're hopefully will learn.
Yeah, and to actually know that it'll be, because obviously, like have come from a place where that had happened and people have lived through it, and right now it's just like recognizing that we're in this transition that's happening, and to just to hold on to that hope and optimism, like all of those things that I can see that help people to have vitality
Right.
and to really, have a bigger vision for themselves, that it's true. I mean, what else can there be? We can't like, like crawl under the covers
Right. I
and
mean, it's either that or we're gone. And at that point we don't care anyway. So
yes.
right.
And really what it is our consciousness is so important. Like this is the one thing our in fact, I was talking to a patient about it, and I was like, the one thing that we have is our spirit, right? Our mind and our spirit. In Chinese medicine, spirit and mind and heart are kind of like the same,
Yeah, I like that.
that energy being that we are. And no matter what, this is our, this is what we have. And we keep our body clear, our meridians open, and our body healthy, so that we're not distracted, right? Because if we're in pain, then we're unable to really have our consciousness expand, to expand. And in order to, overcome adversity, we
Right.
need to
You
have,
literally need to learn how to go with the flow. You
yeah, to
literally,
go with the flow,
yeah.
and also do what you need, what to do to keep yourself in that mental state, a good like, state of mind, you could say. Like anybody has gone through horrific experiences and been able to come out of it, one of the things is that they say is that, they had some internal conversation with themselves that they were not going to allow those circumstances to destroy them, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where we all are right now. We have to be like, just recognize that we need to, you know, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically, right?
Yeah.
Be connected and present.
Yeah, and I almost think in that in that conversation that you're saying, what's nice about that is we get to be a little bit more on the same playing field. Like,
Right.
yes, we do have differences that, and divisions and things like that, but like what you just said, that's a universal concept.
Right.
That really is a universal concept. So I love that is like kind of hopefully that lady in the future will kind of like confirm that. So where do you see acupuncture and even like where do you see that personal work going in the future? Where do you think you're headed? What would you like to see happen in,
Well,
why do you want to bring acupuncture into the fertility conversation and things like that?
the acupuncture is really all of these are a mind body energy medicine, mind body medicine, and what it does is it helps the person who's receiving it become aware of the power that they have to heal themselves. Right? I'm a facilitator. You're a facilitator. I have experience with lots of people, and I've got thousands of years of knowledge that I'm actually implementing,
Right, coming
to
through
help
you.
people, right? To just
Hmm.
help you. It's kind of coming through me. It's like always I'm learning how to like have it, you know, come forth so that people can like kind of like open up like a flower and recognize that, you cut your finger, you heal. I can put a band-aid on, but your skin comes together. And so this connecting that we call mind body. It's more than that, it's also the
Right.
spiritual, is that you become aware, like, wait a second, like I can breathe, I can control my breath, right? I can give myself more oxygen, I can do things, to better myself. Like, you have this power inside of you. And for women, they have this ability to create, like, and it's really like tapping into that energy that comes from the universe, you could say God, or it's this very special substance that we connect with, and that enables these, cells to come together, and not just that, but to become animate, right? To like to house this energy, which becomes a spirit and a person, right?
Right. It's
So
amazing.
yeah, and so there's always a miracle that's happening, and what the acupuncture does is it like helps, that woman, that man, their energy to be flowing so that they can receive it. And
Mm.
these are the things, fertility doctors will tell you, oncologists will tell you that, you could have the perfect egg and sperm together and it doesn't happen. An oncologist will tell you it is true. People sometimes just spontaneously heal, and we don't understand it,
Right.
right? But
Right.
it happens. It
Right.
happens,
Right. I love
right?
that. So if I am listening to this and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm in New York City. I want to work with this. I like how she thinks. She's not like my average, acupuncturist or fertility, support or anything like that. Where can we find you? The most direct way to find you right now?
Okay, so the most direct way to find me is my website will have my phone number and my email. So my website is integrativehealingarts.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram and then my name, Tsao-Lin Moy, which I guess you can put
Yeah,
into.
I'm going to put all of this stuff in the show notes.
Yeah,
So.
that's probably the best, yeah. And my email, so you can, contact me. So contact at, and yeah, I would love to, work with whomever is interested in really working at this, we call it like a deeper level, and really like opening up that energy, for them, to
Great.
help them to do it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Joe. And I really loved our conversation. I really think that there's there's a great opportunity right now, and I know people are like, I don't want to hear it, I'm going through hell and whatever, but it really is, it's really kind of knocking us to our knees, because for whatever reason human beings seem to sort of need those moments to open their mind to some of these other conversations. But I'm seeing it to be an easier conversation, because whether it's because we're just kind of tired, or we finally have this place where we have the education and the technology and the research done and whatnot. So I definitely see a bright future for you. I thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
guys, definitely look at the show notes if you need to talk to her, and even for a referral for like your area, or if you have a question on any of this Chinese medicine stuff, because I know that she's been writing and creating, and we'll be seeing much more of her in the future all around. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank
All
you.
right, guys. We'll see you next time on Owning Her Health.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health with Dr. Lisa Holland. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.